and welcome back to another episode of Level Up Your Mental. My name is Ariel, and we are back with another topic. So today I wanted to talk about accountability. I feel like this is a big topic, especially on social media. I feel like this is for everyone. So I really want to talk about what is accountability, just so that people know what that is, because I feel like stuff gets lost when we get a lot of our information from social media, from people, just making up their own assumptions or just taking whatever they see online and just taking that definition for it. But we want to make sure that we have clear understandings of what this is and, how it can be helpful for us in our relationships and, the people that we interact with, right? So when it comes to accountability, I want people to understand what is accountability, right? What does it mean to hold yourself accountable? What does it mean to hold others accountable? When it comes to personal accountability, this really refers to the willingness and the ability to take responsibility of your actions, your decisions, and your behaviors, right? It involves recognizing that you have control over your own life and acknowledging that the choices that you make have consequences, right? We can't go around blaming other people for the choices that we make and the consequences that we are given because of those choices, right? When it comes to accountability, I think a lot of times people are afraid to hold themselves accountable because they don't want to be wrong or they don't want to be put in that position. But as we go through life, we start to see that, the only way for us to improve in life is to take accountability for the things that we have done, and for us to, hold our friendships and our relationships for the people that we have and let them know how we were responsible in the things that we did and playing our part by holding ourselves accountable at the end of the day. So yes, it sucks when you go through something and you mess up, or you did something wrong, and you have to hold yourself accountable when it comes to those things. But at the end of the day, people will respect you more once you are able to hold yourself accountable and you're able to let them know, like, yes, I messed up. I'm able to, take that in, understand that I did mess up and that it's okay. And, the other part of the accountability is making sure that you don't do it again, right? You're able to recognize that you made this choice, you got the consequence from it, and then moving forward, that you won't do this thing again, or what the outcomes might be. And then the other part of it too is a lot of times when people are going through things, instead of sitting with themselves and really truly trying to understand what is going on and how these things can affect them, they would rather blame other people and blame their circumstance instead of trying to take a hold onto their own life and the choices and the things that they might do and how this can help them, right? So an example would be, someone who suffers from anxiety, right? Anxiety comes with a lot of different factors. You could have social anxiety, you could have generalized anxiety, which means like it's just different things that cause you anxiety. But at the end of the day, someone struggling with anxiety who constantly just blames their outside circumstances for their issue is not going to be helpful for them. They have to take accountability that this is their feelings, this is how they're feeling. The anxiety is coming from within. So how can you take those feelings that you're having and put them out and really just try to figure out, okay, what is it that's causing my anxiety? How can I get the help, right? You have to start embracing your accountability by, realizing that certain situations may trigger your anxiety, right? But you have the ability and the power to get coping strategies. You can seek professional help. You can learn that, let's not put myself in certain situations because I know it's going to make me anxious, or in the circumstance of, that this is something that you have to do, but it still causes you anxiety. Again, learn coping skills, learn strategies that will help you push through those things, because at the end of the day, everybody has anxiety. Everybody has anxiety to a certain extent, in the sense of certain things may make people anxious, and it may be triggering for some people, but there are certain people who have, higher anxiety than others. And when it comes to those situations, we really have to try and figure out, okay, what can I do to lower my anxiety? What can I do? What strategies can I help when it comes to my anxiety to, not make myself in that state constantly, because nobody wants to be anxious all the time. And you want to make sure that you are being accountable within yourself to understand that you are having anxiety. It's something that you don't want to let take over your life. but you want to get the help and the strategies to be able to cope through it, right? The other part of personal accountability involves, taking ownership of your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. It means acknowledging that you are responsible for how you respond to situations and how you choose to navigate through life's ups and downs. Now, this comes in very different ways, but when I say you're responsible for your thoughts, feelings, and actions, there are so many things that I think people forget to hold themselves accountable for, and they would rather blame others because it just makes sense in that situation. And an example that I would say is, if you're in a situation as far as like a relationship where trust is an issue, right? And you guys, instead of talking about it, you kind of just brush it to the side, or you don't want to acknowledge it because your partner is the type of person who gets upset when you guys talk about these things. But you also have to understand too, relationships comes with two people. In order for things to work, you have to talk about things. Now, if you continue to just let the situation stay the way that it is, of course your thoughts and your feelings regarding it is going to be the same, and you're also going to do things that you wouldn't normally want to do, because instead of talking about it and try to come to a solution or try to come to some type of compromise, you're doing other things out of the norm to kind of justify the situation, even though it's causing you a lot of issues, right? And I will say this in the sense of, instead of trying to hold your partner accountable because of the certain things that they are doing is making you upset, or it's putting you in positions that are making you uncomfortable, or just certain things that are not in the norm for you, it's better to talk to the person that you're with so that you don't do something that you will regret later on, right? The last thing that you want to do is, like, if you are the type of person who has had a history of people cheating on you or whatever the case may be, instead of going behind their back and doing certain things, that are gonna lead to issues in the relationship, talk about it. Learn how to, work through it. Learn how to talk about those feelings and those thoughts that you are having. That is solely based on you. People cannot read your mind. You have to let them know what is going on, and you have to hold yourself accountable to the feelings that you are having. If you're upset about something, say it to the person. You have to learn how to be responsible for those things. Another thing will be, people who tend to let their emotions get the best of them. The last thing that you want to do is let your anger get the best of you, and now you're reacting in a way that you never would, and you're not holding yourself accountable because you're just going to say, oh, it's because I was upset, it was because of this, it's because of that. Sure, that's the reason why. I'm going to assume because you are upset, you don't have the right coping strategies, so you get angry and you yell at people or you get physical. But at the end of the day, there comes a point in your life where you have to learn how to be accountable for those actions and the way that you're feeling, and understanding that you can't let these things take over you, right? You have to learn how to accept that you have anger issues, you have anxiety, trust issues, whatever the case may be, and learn how to take accountability for that and get the help that you need. You can't just say, I've been through so many things in my life and I now have anxiety, I have trust issues, I have anger issues, and you just sit with it. Because then what happens when you get into a new relationship and now that person has to deal with whatever it is that you dealt with before, because you're not choosing to do better within yourself, right? Nobody wants to be anxious all the time. Nobody wants to be around, someone that they might know is not, trustworthy, or whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, you want to take the accountability in the sense that you want to make sure that you are accountable within yourself and understand that you do have these issues, and it's something that you want to work on, and it's something that you want to, help to improve your relationships. Because the last thing that you want is for somebody not to want to be around you because of your thoughts, your actions, or even just the simple fact that you're not taking accountability for those things, right? And so, when you hold yourself accountable, you adopt a mindset that embraces challenges, right? You learn from your failures and you seek opportunities for growth. And this is a big thing when it comes to your own professional development, right? Since the Olympics is going on right now, a big thing would be, Sha'Carri's incident that happened last year, right? Before the Olympics. She was tested positive for a THC, and so she didn't get to run in the Olympics, right? So with that, she took the accountability. Yes, I used it. I was, something was going on, Probably not the best coping strategy, right? The last thing that we want is for people to be using substances to cope, but it happens. It's human. People do it. But the whole point of it was that she was able to take accountability instead of lying and blaming other people or, her own circumstance. She was able to be like, yes, I used it because I was going through a hard time. That was my way of coping. It messed me up. But what happened? She came back this year. She was able to show up in the ways that she was supposed to, and she actually won a medal. Like, you have to learn how to take accountability even though it sucks. You learn from your failures, right? It helps you be able to grow as a person. The last thing that you want is to be stagnant and stay in the same place in your life. Nobody wants to be around the same person all the time. You want to learn how to grow and to change. The same person that you were at 15 is not the same person that you are at 20. It's not the same person that you are at 25 or 30, so on and so forth, right? Your life and your, the way that you think changes, and I would hope that that comes with holding yourself accountable when it comes to certain situations, because the only way for you to learn in life is to learn from your failures and to learn from your challenges. Not everything in life is going to be smooth sailing, and you have to learn how to push through those things, and that comes with being accountable for your part. How did you mess up? How did you add to this? And even if you didn't, even if you didn't do something bad, accountability also comes with if you knew better. Sometimes we just go along with things because we're so used to it or whatever the case may be, and then after the fact, when it happens, we're like, wow, I knew better. I could have done this. I could have done that. Now moving forward that you're not gonna do that again. You're not gonna involve yourself in those certain things, and that's what comes with taking accountability, is learning from those things, right? And learning how to do better, right? Someone struggling with addiction, right? They take accountability by viewing their relapses as learning experiences rather than signs of failure, and that's a big thing when it comes to substance use, right? You tend to blame yourself a lot because you're like, I should be doing better. But I think people tend to forget too, when it comes to substance use, it can be very challenging. It's an addicting thing. It's a long road. It's a long recovery process. But I think the big part of it is you understand that you are the only one that is, I don't want to say making yourself, but you are the only one that is using these things. You're choosing to do these things, especially if you know better, especially if you've gone through the worst of the worst and you're still indulging yourself in these things, right? So when it comes to people, in this instance, when it comes to substance use, they understand that setbacks are part of the recovery process, right? And you use them as opportunities to reflect, adjust your strategy, and then you seek additional support. If you know that the first time that you tried to stop using substances did not work for you, it was a challenge, and you really want to get this thing working because it's affecting, your own personal life, it's affecting the way that you have relationships, then that's you taking accountability. Like, okay, I messed up the first time, it didn't work, so now I'm going to go seek help and learn other strategies and really put my all into this, even with how hard it may be. This is what it comes with holding yourself accountable, is understanding that you are the one that is in control of your own choices and your own actions, and you do what's best for you at the end of the day, but you have to learn how to take accountability for the things that nobody else is making you do. So I wanted to talk a little bit about self-awareness, because this comes with taking responsibility for your emotions, and again, that comes with holding yourself accountable, right? So self-awareness allows us to develop a deeper understanding of our own triggers, our patterns, and our reactions, right? It enables us to identify the underlying issues that causes our emotions and recognize any negative thought patterns or biases that may influence our mental state. This again goes back to what I was saying. You are the only one that is responsible for how you feel. In therapy, or just in general, when I tell people to really focus on the things that you can control, there are only a certain amount of things in life that you can control. You're not responsible, for other people's emotions, their actions, or whatever the case may be. Even being as a parent, your kid at the end of the day is going to grow up to be their own person, and you are not responsible for the way that the kid is. I mean, yes, of course, you teach them and you grow them and you give them everything that they need in life, but at the end of the day, everybody has to be self-aware of themselves, of your patterns, your triggers, the way that you react, your emotions, because this tends to help you as you get older to figure out what is causing your anxiety, what type of things can you be around, what can't you be around. If you know that you are the type of person that gets irritated by certain things easily, then you're not going to put yourself in certain situations when it comes to those things. And again, this comes with holding yourself accountable. If you know that you are the type of person that drinks, but there's a certain limit that you have, and you go past that limit, and you know that you don't have a designated driver, but you still choose to get behind the wheel to take yourself home or wherever you need to go, you need to hold yourself accountable to whatever consequence that may come with. It may not necessarily lead to something legal, but it could lead to something else that might be, a bit of for you to understand how you could have hurt someone else or whatever the case is. Everything has a consequence when it comes to negative things or just in general. You have to learn how to hold yourself accountable in certain situations, because again, nobody is making you do anything unless somebody, physically has you tied to something, or there's some type of circumstance like that. Nobody is making you do anything, and you are responsible for your own circumstances in the sense of the things that you do and the choices that you make. So again, this comes with being self-aware, right? So when we are aware of our own emotions, we can communicate them more effectively. We're allowing others to understand and support us better. By being attuned, with our emotional state, we can also become more empathetic towards the feelings of those around us. This empathy strengthens relationships, and it promotes a sense of understanding and connection. And this is important to remember too, because everybody has emotions. Everybody is triggered by certain things. Some people get mad more easily than others. Some people get upset more than others. Some people are sensitive. But when it comes to our emotions, we can't let every single thing that happens in our life trigger us to the point that we get emotional or we feel sensitive to every single thing. That's going to be a lot for you, and it could be, again, detrimental to your relationships. This also comes with, in the professional stance, learning how to take criticism. I think this is a big part in our world now. I understand that some people can be very mean, it makes sense, but I want people to understand too that you can't progress in life if you don't learn how to take criticism or just to be able to take feedback and opinion. Of course, there might be some people that don't necessarily want the best for us and will always have negative feedback, but I think that there's a lot to be taken in if you truly care about the people that are around you and the things that you do in life. So you have to learn that not everybody is coming at you. People really do care and they want you to do better, so they're going to give you that feedback. And again, you are responsible to take that information in and learn how to work with it and improve. You have to learn that your emotions, when it comes to this, you're not triggered in the sense that you feel like the person's coming at you, or you feel like people don't want the best for you, because that's not the case. There are situations where people want you to do better and they know that you can do better, so they're trying to give you the information back. But if you're someone who doesn't recognize their emotions or is very sensitive when it comes to situations, it's not going to be beneficial for you. So you have to learn how to take the criticism, take the feedback, and understand that it's not personal. Understand that your emotions when it comes to how you react things are important. And if it's something that you're triggered or you get upset or it's just negative in general, then you have to, figure out, what can I do to learn from this? How can I, fix my coping strategies when it comes to these things? Because the last thing that you want to do is be triggered all the time. So now I want to get into what is the benefits of personal accountability. I think when it comes to accountability, it might be a little bit challenging for some people, especially if it's not something that you're used to. So when it comes to personal accountability, it helps you lead by example, right? By being personally accountable, you are an example for whomever you're with, whether that's at work, whether that's in your own family, especially with your kids. When you hold yourself accountable in front of your kids, it shows your kids that you are human and that you don't use the power trip of, oh, I'm a parent, because I think that tends to get stuff mixed up too, right? Your kids have to understand that you are human, you're an adult, and that you have emotions, but you're able to take accountability when you're wrong, right? Just because your kids are your kids doesn't mean that you don't have to apologize. I think this is where relationships with parents tend to get hard, even with my own family or just things that I've seen through my own personal life. We start to see now that the parenting is changing a bit, and people are starting to hold themselves accountable and having these relationships with their kids, and then letting their kids know that they're sorry, and then that they don't continue to do these things, right? So people know that when you hold yourself accountable, that you're willing to, own up to your mistake, and they are more likely to do the same. When somebody knows that, their supervisor or whomever it is able to make mistakes and they're able to own up to it, then they can do the same, and they're comfortable with that because they know that you understand, right? The other benefit is it keeps you consistent with your values, right? When you are accountable to yourself, you're more likely to stay true to your values because you're constantly questioning your decisions and you're looking for ways to improve. When you hold yourself accountable, you're able to look back and be like, oh, okay, I messed up. How do I make sure that I don't do this again? How do I make sure that as I move forward through life that I'm able to know that I messed up, apologize for it, and then learn how to move forward and not do it again, right? I think that's the big part of holding yourself accountable, because this is part of your values, this is who you are, and it shows that you are a stand-up person and you're able to, acknowledge the things that you've done instead of being that type of person that puts the blame on everybody else or just doesn't want to take the accountability at all. The other thing is it stops you from making bad decisions. That's another thing. When you hold yourself accountable, you're more likely to make smart decisions, since you're constantly thinking about the consequences of your actions and how they're going to affect yourself and others and your goals. When you know that certain things that you do is going to affect other people or just you in general, that's you holding yourself accountable. You know that, let's say you know that you have work the next day. Let's say you work on the weekends, your friends want you to go out on Saturday, and you guys going out involves drinking, partying, the casual, whatever, but you know that you have work on Sunday, right? Nobody's saying that you're not able to go out. You can go out, but if you're going to hold yourself accountable and making sure that you are making the best decisions for yourself, this involves making sure that you go out, that you're not drinking heavily, that you have a designated driver, and then that you also have a plan as far as like, okay, I know that I have to wake up early, so I am definitely going to make sure that I am at home at this certain time where I can still have fun and, spend time with my friends, but understanding that I have to go to work in the morning, and I'm holding myself accountable in the sense of that I have to make sure that I show up the next morning. Now, things happen in life where people feel like they can go out and party and then go out, go to work the next day. I've seen it happen before, not saying it can't. I'm just saying make sure that you hold yourself accountable the next day when you don't feel, up to your best self. You didn't show up in the best way that you could, in the sense of that you knew you had work and you're supposed to get a good amount of sleep and then, food and everything before you go to work the next day, but you decided to party and do whatever you need to do. It's just making sure that you are staying away from those bad decisions when you know that these things might result into something negative, right? The other thing is it helps you learn from your mistakes. When you hold yourself accountable for your actions, you're more likely to reflect on what went wrong and take steps to improve in the future. Again, when you hold yourself accountable, you're able to say to yourself, hey, I messed up. This is something that, I've done before. I've acknowledged that I've messed up, and now I'm able to move forward and understand that I don't have to do this thing again. If you know that you're the type of person that when you get under the influence, you are very negative, you don't have very nice things to say to people, and you know that you are not your best self, then you are able to hold yourself accountable and be okay, I'm not going to drink, or in the sense of I'm only going to limit myself to certain drinks, or just certain things like that. You're able to understand that you learned from your mistakes, and once you learn from your mistakes and you use that as a driving force, then people will understand, wow, that's a stand-up person. They were able to acknowledge that they messed up and the situation was circumstantial, but they were able to move forward and do what they need to do, and I haven't seen them do that again. People are able to understand that you took responsibility for your actions and you can be a stand-up person at the end of the day, right? So the last thing would be is, how do you hold yourself accountable? As funny as this may sound, I think if you don't know how to do something, it might be kind of hard, so it's important for people to know. When you take yourself accountable, the first thing that you need to understand is understand your role in the situation. What is it that you did to contribute? It might not be something negative, but even if you played a little part in it, you want to understand what that role is, and making sure that you acknowledge the people who are aware of this, right? You want to make sure that they know that you know what role you played, and you apologize or whatever you need to do to make the situation better. Once you understand your role in the situation, then you guys can figure out what to do moving forward, and you can understand, you can at least speak to whoever, whatever the situation is, and then they can tell you where you did wrong. Because a lot of times we don't know what we've done wrong. A lot of times people have to tell us in order for us to understand what we've done. So you have to understand what role you played when it comes to this, right? The next thing would be honest with everyone, including yourself. While telling the truth can be challenging when you've made a mistake, taking personal responsibility builds integrity, and it often reduces consequences. When people hide from blame or ignore a problem, it doesn't go away, right? And it usually becomes even worse. And this is very important for people to understand. Just because, something happened and you say sorry and then you just move on, that doesn't help. And I know a lot of people have seen that before too. We want someone to hold themselves accountable and acknowledge what they've done, and for them to show you what they've done wrong. A lot of times people don't understand that, and it's very hard for them to understand. You got to understand that, when it comes to these situations, holding yourself accountable and being honest with everyone, including yourself. I think that's the hardest part for some people too, is understanding that you have to be honest within yourself. You can't lie to yourself when you know that you messed up in a situation. Now you can, but it's not going to help you, because it's going to be sitting there with you forever, because you know that you messed up, and it's okay to mess up. Again, this is what holding yourself accountable is for. We're human, we make mistakes, but just because we're human and we make mistakes doesn't necessarily mean that you can keep continuing making these mistakes and not holding yourself accountable for it. Because at the end of the day, nobody's going to want to be around you if you're not going to be able to hold yourself accountable. So being honest with yourself and everybody else helps when it comes to holding yourself accountable. And the other thing, may be so simple: apologize. And when I say apologize, it means that you recognize that you have done something wrong in the situation, and that you're quick to say sorry and work to rectify the situation. A lot of times people will wait, and then they don't acknowledge what they've done wrong. Now it makes the situation worse. You and the person are arguing, or whatever the case is, and it's not helping you. So you want to make sure that when you realize that you've done something wrong, even if you feel like you don't know, it's better to clarify than to sit there and just wait for something to happen. If you know that you've done something wrong, yes, use the term be the bigger person, and honestly go and apologize, or just ask for a clarify. I think people are afraid, but it's better to ask the person, hey, did I upset you in any way? Is there anything that I've done wrong? So that you can understand where you can hold yourself accountable. Because I think a lot of times people forget that there are things that you may do that you might see that is okay in your eyes, but in somebody else's eyes they might take offense to it, or they might feel some type of way about it. So it's better to clarify with them and apologize, and learn that moving forward, when it comes to this person or certain circumstances, you can't do that, and it's gonna build your relationship and build yourself in understanding that you are better than this, and you can hold yourself accountable when it comes to those things, right? And apologize when it's needed. The other thing would be, cultivate self-awareness. Take responsibility of your emotions, right? And the strategies when it comes to this is mindfulness. Taking time to breathe and be present with yourself and your emotions. And this is a big thing when it comes to people who may have anger issues. When you are angry, a lot of times all you see is red. And there are a lot of strategies that you can learn throughout therapy to help you. But one of the big things that I always tell people is, when you are upset, take a moment. Take a moment to breathe. Just take a second and understand, try to think logically instead of with your emotions. A lot of times when we react in our emotions, it leads us into more of a situation than before. So if we take a second to just breathe, be mindful, and understand where we're coming from, then it will help us a lot, to stop us from certain situations. So many times that I've seen people who react in situations because their emotions are so high, when they could have just taken a step back, and even like I try to tell people, another strategy would be is visualize a stop sign. Like really just stop yourself for a moment. Again, you are the only one that is control of your actions. So you want to make sure that you're aware of your choices, in the sense of when you are feeling some type of way, take a moment to just breathe, really be present with yourself and your emotions, and figure out how to react responsibly instead of, with your emotions at the end of the day. The other thing is journaling. I know it may sound funny, but journaling definitely helps. And there's different ways of journaling. There's different notebooks when it comes to journaling. Some people I've seen now, people journal on their cell phones because, we're on our phones all the time. And now that they have the journal app on the iPhones, you can do that too. But there are journaling prompts that will help you if you don't know where to start. You can get a journal that has questions on it that will help you to answer something so you can figure out what to write down. But journaling helps to identify, reoccurring patterns or triggers that may contribute to certain emotional states. When you constantly journal and you start to see what is going on, then you can recognize, okay, this is a pattern in my behavior. I did this a week ago and it didn't help me at all. So now I need to figure out, how do I stop myself from getting back into that again? Because again, you are the only one that is responsible for your choices. You know that there might be some consequences when it comes to this thing. And so you need to be responsible for your actions and be holding yourself accountable and making sure that you are aware of these patterns and these triggers. The next thing would be seeking feedback, right? External perspectives can help us gain a more accurate understanding of our emotional impact on others. Sometimes when we get into certain situations, we don't know how we react, we don't know how we show up. So a lot of times it's good for us to have people give us the feedback. Hey, you were there as a third person during this situation. What could I have done better? How did I respond? What did you see? Because a lot of times what we see from ourselves may be different, but if we get feedback from someone that we know and that we trust and that knows us, they can help us. Hey, that's not who you are. That's not how you usually respond to things. And I didn't like how you responded. And then you can be like, okay, let me take accountability. I messed up. This is something that I did and it won't happen again, because I know the way that I responded was not effective. And getting that from someone is definitely a good thing. And that's why I try to tell people too, this is why therapy is beneficial, because you get the feedback from someone who doesn't know you. We don't know who you are. We're trying to get to know you, and a good therapist will be able to call you out. We are able to notice when someone is lying or when we don't have the full entire situation. And the number one thing when I tell people when they come into therapy is you have to be honest. You have to hold yourself accountable, and you need to make sure that you are telling the truth, because there's no way that you're gonna get the benefits out of therapy if you're not being honest with yourself and holding yourself accountable in any type of situation. Even if you did the most little thing, you have to know how to hold yourself accountable and understand that you played some type of part in it, and it's not just the other person's fault. You contributed somehow, right? So again, getting feedback from other people can help you realize that you did something wrong, even if you may not have seen it. This person is able to show it to you, right? And then the last thing would be reflecting on past experiences. By examining these experiences, we can gain a deeper understanding of our emotional responses and work towards more constructive reactions in the future. If you know that, in your past you were a very angry person, you tend to respond to situations in such a negative way, you can look back at it and be like, okay, I don't want to be that person anymore. And again, you have the right to change. And, as you get older, you start to realize a lot of things, and a lot of things don't require as much energy as you would want to. Like, I know in my own life, I don't want to be involved in any type of drama. So I know for myself, I keep myself away from things that I know might result in drama, just based off of my own past experiences. If I know that a certain situation led to something that might have caused drama, then I'm not going to put myself in that situation again. But if you choose to keep putting yourself in certain circumstances that you know are going to lead to whatever consequence it may be, that's going to be your own demise, because you are self-aware. You know that something is wrong, but you continue to be involved in it anyway. So it is important when it comes to these things for you to understand that reflecting on your past, it is going to be uncomfortable. You are going to see some things where you responded in the way that you wouldn't want to, or the way that you wouldn't have in your current life, because you've grown and you realize that these are things that you don't want to do again. But this is what comes with being accountable and holding yourself accountable, is understanding that I messed up in the past. I'm aware of that. I've apologized. I've done everything that I need to do. And now the best thing for me is to grow and to do the best thing that I can, so I can show up as the best version of myself and continue to have these healthy relationships with people, right? So I want to thank you guys for coming into another episode. If you guys have any questions or any topics, please feel free to drop them in the comments. This is something that I really enjoy doing. I really love mental health. I want to advocate for it, hoping that I can get to a bigger platform and be able to do the thing that I love on a regular basis. But until then, I'm going to keep putting the content out. I'm going to keep, getting the feedback and, holding myself accountable, with this title, holding myself accountable and making sure that I'm aware of the things that I've done and things like that. But making sure that I'm putting the topics out there because, I love to give information for people and to help people grow and to help people understand that it's okay to make mistakes, but we have to learn from those mistakes, right? I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.